Hey, what's going on, people? Decided to make another quick video. It's been a while, so I'll try and make this one short and straight to the point. So, lately, actually not lately, for a while, I've been reading a lot of blogs and stuff involved in the manosphere, which is basically, you could think of it as a collective that is focused on men's issues and men's rights. And I find some really intriguing viewpoints. There are some really good blogs on there. You've got Rollo Tomasi, another one called The Private Man, Roosh, and a few others that are really interesting to read. I usually try to keep a balanced perspective, so I read a lot of manosphere blogs as well as a few feminist blogs, not many. And anyways, I was reading, and one of the things that I noticed was I think the manosphere lacks a certain level of unity. They make a lot of good points in regards to issues affecting men today, in regards to issues about game, issues about getting a girlfriend or a partner, helping a man realize his true potential. Those things are very helpful, and I believe there's a lot of good information on there. But the biggest problem with the manosphere and the men's rights movement as a whole, I feel, is that there's a lack of unity in regards to goals. That's the biggest difference between the men's rights movement and the women's rights movement. If you think about the women's rights movement, when it first started, at its very inception, it was geared towards getting universal suffrage. Basically, women were fighting for the right to vote. That was the single unifying factor that existed in that created the backbone of the entire movement. Because you have to remember, even back during that era, there was a lot of racism going on within the women's rights movement. There was racism, there was class warfare, there was classism, and there were all kinds of internal issues that they had. There were religious issues, political issues, issues about sexual freedom. All those things existed even back then, but the advantage they had was there was a single unifying factor that kept everyone together regardless of their differences, and that was universal suffrage. Every single woman wanted the right to vote. So women were able to at least put their differences aside when the need required in order to get that goal accomplished. And that was the reason why the women's rights movement was so strong. The problem with the men's rights movement is that we don't have a single unifying factor that keeps everyone together. Some aspects of the manosphere, some people in the manosphere are more focused on getting a girlfriend or getting laid and getting as many girlfriends as possible or sexual partners as possible, and that's really their only reason for learning game. They don't really care about anything else. Some people in the manosphere are only concerned with unrealistic goals, like going back to how things used to be in the 1940s or the 1930s or the 50s, which is not realistic. And then we have those that are angry white males who are basically just white guys that feel disenfranchised or feel that they have less power because they're having a hard time adjusting to how the world is today. And then we have uh, the minority ones who are men's rights activists who view things from their perspective, and then we have those who are fathers' rights activists who are more concerned with parental issues and custody issues. So all of these people are part of the manosphere, but they're all completely gaming and aiming for different things. And I feel that that's the problem. We have all these people that are making their own contributions, and some of the things they have to say are true, while some of the things they're saying might be exaggerated. But there is no single unifying factor that keeps everyone together and unified towards that goal. When you have a goal, everyone can come together and work towards it, and it becomes easier to realize that goal because everyone knows what they're doing. But when you're in a situation where you have different groups of people complaining, but they're all complaining about different things, yet they all claim to be part of the same movement, you're not going anywhere because there is no single direction. And I think that's the problem I see with the game community today. It's that everyone makes some valid contributions, but everyone is coming from a different perspective. And that can be seen very clearly in the blogs. If you read Dow Rock, Private Man, Rollo Tomasi, Rush, V, they're all making really valuable contributions, but they're all catering to a different crowd. And the same can be said about, what was his name? Rose, what was his name again? Uh, Rosso, or Rossi, can't remember his name. Royce, that was his name. And he was like one of the most popular bloggers out there. And his crowd is very different from the people that someone like Dal Roth talks to. So they're all making different contributions about game, and some of the stuff they say is good, some of the stuff might be questionable, but there is no unifying factor. And when there's no unifying factor, we are not going anywhere. And that's what has been affecting the men's rights movement so much. A good example of that would be the alimony laws in Massachusetts. Up until not too long ago, a woman could continue receiving alimony almost indefinitely. But recently they changed that law, and now it's basically based on the amount of time you have spent together prior to the divorce. And even then, a woman cannot continue to receive alimony indefinitely. They were able to put a window of time, and they were able to put a limit, rather, a time limitation on how much and for how long a woman can collect. And a lot of feminists were actually against that law. They were against the idea of putting a time limit on alimony. But I believe that was a huge victory for men's rights activists at the time. And I mean, it cannot just be considered a men's rights issue, because sometimes the woman is the one with more assets that finds herself having to support the man she divorced. But the reality is, most times, it's the man that ends up paying for it. Plus, you have to factor in child support and the likelihood that the woman will get physical custody. But that was a huge victory in Massachusetts, and it came after a very long battle. But see, the reason why that was successful was because there was a very clear purpose that everyone was trying to fight for. So they were able to pull resources together, put time together towards the realization of that goal. If the men's rights movement could do that on a much grander scale, they would have a lot more success. But right now, there is no unifying factor, just many people that are making their own little contributions, but we are not headed towards any one direction. And then you also have to remember there are bad apples within the movement too. Like I said, there are those angry white males that are just really concerned with their issues. And they have all kinds of issues that have nothing to do with men's rights. And in my opinion, they're just wasting time and affecting the movement altogether. And then we have those that are not even really concerned with men's rights at all. They're just trying to get laid. And I mean, if that's what they want to do, that's more power to them. But that has nothing to do with the advancement of men's rights or men's issues. And then those that are trying to go back to a system of patriarchy that is outdated and no longer exists, and is not even really applicable in the world today. Those people are not really helping the movement, they're just there. So I think for the men's rights movement to gain more steam, or at least to make some more substantial victories, to gain some more substantial ground, they need to find a unifying purpose, or at least identify certain things that will help them, and identify certain things that they consider to be important objectives. If they can do that, then they will make a lot more progress. But leave your comments and let me know what you guys think later.